The Diary of Elizabeth H. Platt. The account of her journey from New York to Green Bay, Wisconsin in 1836 with her mother, Sarah Esther Henshaw, including a visit among the Winnebago Indian tribes. The Diary of Elizabeth H. Platt is read by Kathy Gittleson.
Chapter 7. Gambier to Huron. We accordingly left at the time appointed. Our sisters were bestowed the last kiss and uttered the last farewell and returned before nightfall. Mr. Fitch kindly remained to see us off. We heard there was to be a gentleman and his son in the stage, and he called on them to commend us to their polite attentions, and when we were in the stage he introduced them to us, Mr. Woodbridge and his son of Detroit. It was dark, so we could not see them, but the fancies which had filled my imagination of being unprotected, and during the hours of darkness and of crime and the power of men and strangers, vanished when I listened to the melody and tenderness of his voice and his occasional address to his son, my son. It was music to hear him. Alight and assist the ladies. We alighted, and during the hour and a half that we spent at midnight in a solitary inn among the hills of Ohio, I listened with wakeful attention to his bland tones and elegant conversation, feeling no desire to sleep. We traveled slowly and cautiously over the rough and muddy roads, worn into deep holes by the frequent and heavy rains of September, until the Sabbath morning dawned clear, calm, and bright. It was no Sabbath day to us. Jolting over the rough corduroy roads, which are superabundant in this country, prevented everything like satisfactory meditation, and when we stopped at the little town of Ganges or Truxville to breakfast, the voice of prayer, to which we were accustomed on this holy morn, was exchanged for the voice of profanity. We passed through the towns of Mansfield, Paris, New Haven, and on the evening of Sunday arrived at Norwalk, which through the darkness appeared like a fairyland compared to the other towns we had traversed. We had come for many miles in a crowded stage with 9 passengers, all males beside ourselves, and one of them had annoyed me with an almost perpetual gaze. He was in the middle seat and turned around to stare first at Mother and then at myself, and Mother said she felt assured that his pockets were full of pistols, for they were knocking against her. We now had 16 miles to go, and it had commenced raining. I felt some misgivings. I stepped into the public house. It was a delightful establishment for the country. The landlady, a pretty, genteel woman, was sitting before a cheerful fire surrounded by her 5 children, healthy, blooming, and sweet. The eldest, a girl of 14, reminding me strongly and sadly of the lost. I re-entered the stage and proposed to Mother to remain and endeavor to procure a convenience to Huron in the morning, but there was the old gentleman and his musical voice kindly offering to aid us in such an effort, and she resisted, and so on we went in storm and darkness. We left 3 of our companions behind, and there were now but 6 of us, 2 on each seat. If we could reach Milan, 6 miles, we were assured we could find good roads. Our driver looked very young, but was very careful. The lamps were lighted on the stage, and twice the gentlemen were called upon to descend from the stage and walk up hills in the rain which were bordered with dark and fearful precipices. Young Woodbridge walked between the stage and the verge. "My son," said the voice of the father who retained his seat, "do not walk there." But the son proceeded. He was between his father and the precipice, which, should the stage upset, might destroy his father's life. "My son," said the affectionate father, "it disturbs me to see you so pressed for room." It was enough. The son fell back. "1/4 of a mile further," said the driver, "and we shall be safe. The road will be good from there." The stage plowed on through mud and mire up to the very hubs, now this wheel up and then the other, expecting every moment to be upset. But Providence befriended us. The 1/4 of a mile was passed, and the driver, I suppose, felt relieved. But another plunge. "We shall go over," breathlessly exclaimed Mother. "Yes," said I, for the first time really believing it, and down, down, down went the stage with a tremendous crash, Mother underneath. I struggled hard to reach the side of the stage uppermost, but it seemed as if I exerted myself in vain. Groans issued from beneath me. "Mother!" I exclaimed. "My daughter, I am not hurt," she replied, "but I wish the gentleman would speak who is pressing on me, but he does not move, and I don't know if he has fainted." I made another desperate effort and reached one of the posts of the stage which sustained me, so that I pressed upon no one. Some of the gentlemen at length got out. How, I know not, for darkness to be felt was all around us. At length the door was opened, and the elder Woodbridge, by great exertion, swung himself up, and got on the side of the stage which lay uppermost. "Can you follow my example?" he asked me. I replied, "I will try," and by desperate effort succeeded. 2 gentlemen stood on the ground to aid me in alighting. I put my hands upon their shoulders and gave a spring and alighted safely, and now Mother alone remained to be extricated. Her voice came out as from the bowels of the earth, assuring us she was unhurt, but how could she get from the abyss? "Oh," she exclaimed, "I can swing out." Swing? The very idea is ludicrous. I recall the effort my light figure had made to accomplish it. A light was procured, a chair was got and lowered into the stage. The old lady stepped onto it. "Now," I said to the gentlemen, "you must all lay hold and pull her out." "Yes," they exclaimed, "that is the only way." "Driver, stand by the horses that they stir not." The dear old lady was then raised out as by a pulley. And now how shall I get to the ground? The ponderous framework of the stage seemed like a young mountain. A chair was again resorted to, and she climbed onto it as a child of a year climbs out of a seat for the first time, feeling his way with his little feet and then plump onto the floor. She reached the first chair in safety, and her descent from that onto the ground was comparatively easy. We were providentially directed by a house and made for it. It was a small cottage. The owners received us kindly and furnished me with camphor, which I used freely on my head, which I now discovered was painful from a large contusion received at the time the stage upset. It was still raining violently, and we concluded if our host would keep us, we would remain and take daylight for the continuance of our journey. He consented, and the remainder of our company pursued their way. We asked for tea, but they had used their last that night, for bread and butter, but they had none. So they prepared us a clean bed, and we retired to rest, happy and thankful that we had a bed to go to. Rain, 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 patter, 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 all night long. We had some comfortable sleep, however, and in the morning the good people labored to get a comfortable breakfast. Our host was to take us into Huron in a little wagon, but about 9 o'clock we espied a double wagon passing with 2 passengers, and a vacant seat back of them, and learning that they were going to the mouth of Huron River, we embraced the opportunity, borrowed umbrellas, paid for our entertainment, and through rain and mud and mire, with momentary opportunities of upsetting, Mother throwing her weight now on this side of the wagon and now on that to save it, we reached Huron at 12 o'clock, found our fellow travelers on the piazza of the stagehouse, our baggage safe, paid the man $1.50 for our ride, and are now at the Ohio Hotel in the dirty, disagreeable village of Huron, awaiting the arrival of brother and sister Whitney. Tuesday, October 11th, evening. Still at the Ohio Hotel. The Sheldon Thompson steamboat is hourly expected, and there are many passengers here waiting her coming. Among them are our friends, the traveling companions, Judge Woodbridge and his son. The old gentleman grows more and more companionable and agreeable. Last night I thought he and Mother would sit up until midnight, but I concluded it wouldn't be pretty for me to go to bed and leave them alone. This evening we brought in Mr. Cleland of Detroit, of whom we have heard. He has been recently married to a widow with 1 child. A hasty step entered apparently from mortification and disappointment and deep distress, that his expectations and hopes were destroyed in another quarter, where he loved truly and fondly, and the crushing of his affections there had like to have plunged him into remediless ruin. But his friends have now some hope for him, although from his appearance tonight I should fear their hopes were premature. Judge Woodbridge represents him as a man singularly able and winning in his character, and his personal appearance is certainly very gentlemanly and prepossessing save in one particular.
End of Chapter 7.